Yeah, we have a whole hour before the meeting starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. All right, we call the meeting of March 13th, 2023 Economic Development Authority to order. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, wait, we've got to approve Lois being online.
I would
Sorry.
entertain a motion to approve Lois being virtual today.
Second.
Any opposed? Okay,
Right?
good. Now I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
We didn't vote.
Yeah, I did. I said any opposed. Nobody was opposed.
Well, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware that we had voted. Usually it's all those in favor, but I didn't hear that. Okay.
Now I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So.
Moved by Valerie, second by Brittany. Any discussion on the minutes, any corrections that need to be noted? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Lois?
Yes, and what's the score, please? Okay.
Aye, so it's 6-0.
Who's missing?
Ben is absent. Will not be here.
It's 5.
1, 2, 3, 4,
She is
5.
no longer on our board.
Sorry.
Say it again.
I haven't seen the resignation letter yet, so.
Hello?
We're here.
Tell me what happened, please.
Loretta's not officially on the board anymore. She's tendered her resignation.
Oh, so it's 5-0?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So who has to accept the resignation?
The board clerk of supervisors.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and she has it, and I think Eric's going to get you a copy.
Yeah, because she told me she was gonna give you a copy, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we have, the treasurer's report is in front of us. You guys would take a quick glance at it. There's not a whole lot going on right now. Not a whole lot of money in. Thank you. Couple of payments to the flu review and the post office box in the last 3 months. That's about it. And then on the opportunity fund, there's been no movement at all. And we don't need an approval for the treasurer's report, do we, Jennifer?
No.
Okay. Any discussion on the treasurer's report? Any questions?
No.
Concerns? Okay, all right, Ken, you're fine.
Okay, so you have to. I'm going to let Eric go ahead of me.
Okay,
So I'm toggling between presentations again.
Oh, don't mind the title, I got to change the title, but.
Sorry, when you're trying to toggle through all this stuff on this tiny little screen.
Jennifer, is this all going to be on YouTube? Because this is going faster than I can write and hear correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
There's.
So Jennifer said EDA wanted an explanation on kind of where the county is with Fork Union, what's happening, how we got the Dominion proffers. And you let me know if I'm going in the right direction.
sure.
Okay, so, so when the county, well, let me back up. So Dominion Energy came to the county for a coal ash landfill special use permit. Through state legislation, I want to say it was, gosh, years are running together here, but I want to say late to 2019 timeframe, maybe 2018 legislation that came out that said for these for Dominion that have these large coal ash plants, ponds, whatever, they had a couple options to do remediation to the coal ash. They could either one, put it on a rail car and ship it out elsewhere and put it into another lined landfill somewhere. They could either haul it out on dump trucks to a lined landfill somewhere else. They could, their Dominion could purchase and do a lined landfill on a site of their choosing. And, or a combination thereof, they could do some reclamation. Some of the coal ash partially can be used in some, from what I understand, some concrete applications. But from what I understand, the recycling piece of it is a small piece. So when Dominion approached the county about what their intent was and what they wanted to do with the coal ash, they basically came forward and said they would like to purchase a piece of property next to their existing property that they own. And so they purchased, I think it's about a 200-acre tract adjoining right next to their existing property. It's kind of got a kind of a sweeping bowl already. So they, instead of, which would have taken 10 years and many rail cars or truckloads without taking it out of there and shipping it and putting it over Fluvanna County roads, it was determined that it would be better to do it in a lined landfill on the property that they purchased.
And it saved them a boatload of money.
It would save them a good chunk of money as well. I mean, they were looking at between the different options, anywhere between, I think the line landfill option was probably in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 million to do the reclamation and do the line landfill, versus if they had to ship it out and put it in a landfill somewhere else, it was going to be close to the $1 billion range. As part of this legislation, if the line landfill or Dominion's coal ash ponds, if they were within a 1.5 mile radius from their plant, whether they were private wells or public wells within that 1.5 mile radius of that plant, there was some language that said that there would be some remediation efforts to either private landowners to either one, hook them up to a public water supply. So just go to the next map. The next one will come back to this. So for instance, I think that's the 1.5 mile radius, the furthest out red line. So if anyone is in there and they're on a private well, they could either one, Dominion would test their wells for some period of time. I want to say it was like 20 or 30 years, something like that. Two, if an individual so wanted, they would hook them up to a public water supply system. The only public water supply system is the Fork Union Sanitary District. And oh, by the way, the Fork Union Sanitary District system has 2 of our wells within that 1.5 mile radius. So with that, the county had some leveraging power and negotiation power with Dominion to say, we have two of our groundwater wells that supply water to an entire system. And because of that, we feel we've got some room to negotiate for proffers to come to the county. And again, when there is a proffer, the proffer has to mitigate what the impact is. So because from the legislation, it talks about water and having water for that area, we thought it would be appropriate to negotiate for a long-term water supply in the Fork Union area. So go back to the previous, well, before you do that, so the green outline is really the Fork Union Sanitary District system. But we'll kind of talk more about that. So go back to the money piece of the previous screen. So because of that, through probably about, I don't know, 6 to 9 months, we had negotiations back and forth with Dominion to negotiate and to get to an acceptable place where we feel that we could do a lot of water upgrades in the Fork Union area in the southern part of the county. So we negotiated close to $50 million with Dominion for for water upgrades, some public amenity, recreation and green infrastructure space, and then road improvements around Bremo. So the total of all the water supply improvements, that's everything up there in the blue, the 40, a little over 47 million. That would that would pay for Fluvanna County's portion of the James River Water Authority at the time. Let me caveat that in saying at the time, water and sewer infrastructure projects have gone up. And so likely what we did, we calculated at the time, it was gonna cost about $10 million for our portion of the James River Water Authority project. So I know it says 7,600, but part of the additional, which comes up to 10 million, is in that last piece that says unanticipated water project costs. So basically, we have $10 million to go towards Fluvanna County's portion of the James River Water Authority project. On top of that, so if you take 10 million off the 47 million, now we have another 37 million to do water supply improvements in the Fork Union district. Which would be a new water treatment plant somewhere in the Fork Union area, raw water storage tank, pump station, elevated storage tank like we have at Zion's Crossroads, pays for engineering, and it pays to extend lines in those areas in the Fork Union area that kind of touch within that 1.5 mile radius that we don't currently have existing water lines. And then in addition, because we used to have a park space at the old Dominion site for a softball and a picnic area, we negotiated $500,000 to go towards public amenity, recreation and green infrastructure space. And they proffered $2 million to go to VDOT to do road fixes and improvements after everything is all said and done. So that's kind of where we are right now. We actually have a contract with our engineers to start doing some of this work. Within some of the proffers, there was some language that said, once we had a contract in place, once we got a budget and all that, we would get a $2.1 million in advance to start doing some of the work. Now, the full amount of all of this, the whole $50 million isn't technically approved until they get their permits in hand, their state and federal permits. But that pretty much goes without saying. They're not going to put forward $50 million unless they get the permits to do what they need to do. So again, there's not a whole lot of options for what they can do, and they're going through the permitting process right now. So the county has, we feel a very sufficient amount of funds to do some serious water improvements in the Fork Union area. Which we feel, and again, when you think of the Fork Union area, if you go down to Bremo Road, take 6 going towards Columbia a little bit, down in Cloverdale, going up near, basically the county's Performing Arts Center, and kind of going a little bit on Route 6. The Fork Union area is a big area. So as we talk about kind of growing the county in certain areas, you're not going to grow areas unless you have water and sewer infrastructure. I think close to $47 million for that part of the county will do a lot of good to boost infrastructure. Now, remember, this is only the water piece. We tried to get sewer out of it, but since the legislation didn't really talk about anything sewer, we tried for sewer, but we were unsuccessful in that. But I think with what we got on the screen there and what was proffered, I think we have a good start to get some necessary improvements in the Fork Union area. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I've got a couple of questions with the coal ash. Does that break down into anything, or once it's in that line, it's not going to leak out? We're not going to have a love canal.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so let me say this. I'm not an engineer, and I can't say that everything in the world is 100% guaranteed,
Okay.
but these lined landfills, and maybe I would rely on another engineer to architect, engineer, to chime in, but no, I mean, obviously. I think the risk factor is very low. But again, they do these landfills all over the place. It's a proven
And
system.
they're still on the hook at landfill if it fails.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For
And
how long? Is that the 30 years or is that?
no, the 30 years, I'll have to go back. I mean, remember, they've got permits with state and federal agencies.
Yeah.
It's just not Fluvanna County. I mean, we're just one piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
And so if there's any type of contamination or anything like that, they're gonna be on the hook.
Forever?
I would say forever, but I don't have everything in front of me. I mean, I would say probably
Yeah, if they
that's,
contaminate the water
Yes.
source, the EPA is
Yeah.
gonna come
Yeah.
after them forever.
yes,
Right, we don't want a Flint, Michigan.
correct.
We don't want a Love Canal. We
Yes.
don't want any of those.
Yes.
things. Okay,
I would agree.
okay, and if you could go back to the map.
Yep.
Um,
I'm sorry, the map's a little small. kinda
yeah,
hard
it's
to
a
see.
little, yeah, but there's no danger to the James River either.
No, because I mean, and again, if we were in GIS, we could probably do it.
Yeah,
But one, right now, everything was in an east and west pond, which was closer to the river. Back in, I wanna say. Probably 2010 through 2015, they moved everything from the east and west ponds up to the north pond. The north pond is up ground, closer to Bremo Road. And that is, again, they put that in an unlined landfill. So where the north pond is right now, because that was before all this legislation came out. The
okay.
legislation came out about putting it into a lined landfill when they were in the process of moving everything up to the north pond.
Uh-huh.
Then the legislation came out. And so really from I guess from a work standpoint, we wanted to mitigate one, not having the coal ash go over all of the roads, all the trucks, 10 years of dump trucks driving over county roads, wherever it's going, if it's going Buckingham or has to go other places, we wanted to eliminate the coal ash going throughout. And so, one, they purchased a large parcel literally right next to, I mean, it's literally right up there. I think that's the parcel right up there.
Okay,
And it's got a natural bowl already, and so, I mean, certainly they'll be doing many improvements in the bowl. And then when they do the removal from the north pond to the new landfill, I mean, they will literally be going all inland and nothing will be going on the roads. Now, it doesn't mean
okay,
some dump trucks or equipment may not be coming into the site, but all the coal ash will remain on their
on
site,
their property.
going from the unlined landfill to a lined landfill. And there's all sorts of remediation efforts, water quality and all that stuff.
Okay, so all the old ponds are all gonna be
Yes.
tested and.
Oh, yeah, they have to remove all the coal ash and it's gotta be tested until it has no traces of any coal
Okay.
ash.
Okay, we're not gonna have, an East Palestine or anything.
I would love to say 100% that no, that's not going to be the case. I mean, certainly in this
Sure.
world, nothing's never
No.
guaranteed, but I think it's very,
Okay.
very slim.
When is the green space gonna be put in?
So that's really a board decision. Again, until they get their permits for what they're intending to do, their state and federal permits. The money's just there. I mean, it's a placeholder. So once they get those permits in hand to start doing the removal from the north pond to this new line landfill, that's when Fluvanna County has access to going back to the 47 million, remember minus 2.1, because 2.1 is kind of our upfront money that we get to start doing some preliminary work while they're doing this. And so, I think there's actually something in the paper right now, going into the paper about a public hearing regarding some of their things, not a county public hearing, but just kind of a DEQ
So
public
they're
hearing.
proffering the land and the money to do the improvements for the green space?
No, the $500,000 is, there's no land involved with that. That's, the $500,000 is to buy land somewhere, to buy land and do some improvements or whatever.
Okay.
Or to just do improvements wherever. That $500,000 is not necessarily targeted to anything. It's open to the board of supervisors. Now, I know Mrs. Booker has anything to say to it. She has been a champion to have it be in the Fort Union area, and I think it probably should be too.
And you may have said this already, Eric, do you have a time frame for how long this whole project is going to take after the permits have been granted?
I mean, so one, if we can get our preliminary engineering report going here soon,
Mhm.
which will get out of the $2.1 million. If you think of from a preliminary engineering report, that generally takes 6 to 9 months for that.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know what their time frame is to get their state and federal permits. I would probably guess. If I had to guess, it would probably be within the next year to year and a half.
Okay, yeah,
So within that time frame, we're hoping to kind of get some of our things teed up. For the infrastructure to start looking at, certainly after we do the preliminary engineering report, then we'll have to do engineering, like a full engineering.
Mhm.
The preliminary engineering report's gonna say, well, okay, well, where do you want, what's the best place to put the elevated storage tank? Again, we got the James River Water Authority project, which is going from Remo Road to Route 6 down towards Columbia. We're gonna tap off that water line from there, and we're gonna build a water treatment plant somewhere. Is it right there at that area? Are we gonna build a water treatment plant near the Performing Arts Center, or are we gonna build it? You know, right in the heart of Fort
So
Union
that begs the
somewhere?
question then, so part of our allotment for the James River Water Authority will be diverted.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because remember, so.
We have like 7 million or
So
something.
the permit for the JRWA, it's a phase one, allocation of close to $6 million. 6 million gallons per day with a total at max, build out, I think it's 12 million gallons per day.
Mhm.
And Fluvanna County gets 50% of that. So again, you know, in, let's just say 5 years, I'll be optimistic, and let's just say 5 years from now. You know, down in the Fort Union area, we could have access to a substantial amount of water down there, which is huge for.
Yes,
From a commercial growth area,
Mhm.
from a growth standpoint of getting business into this county. Again, I've told the board this, our biggest Achilles heel right now for everywhere is the sewer piece, and that's kind of the next piece that I'm working on right now.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So is any of this involve the EDA as a pass-through entity or not? No.
It's, I mean, again, it's a strict, it's a strict proffer to the county, and so, no, I can't imagine, again, if the proffer came through, I think it would have, the EDA would have been involved from the get-go, if the EDA would have had to have been involved, so no, I don't see there being any involvement with the EDA.
And then on the, and this is just for my own
Yep.
knowledge, so the land use for the coal ash pond, if they get a special use permit, is it gonna be an I-1 or an I-3 or what?
Gosh,
My question kind of leads to how much money are they gonna be paying us every year for keeping that on our property or in our rolls?
I mean, again, we're from a tax standpoint, I mean, one, the building that was there was already demolished, so we've already lost revenue from that standpoint. I mean, I don't think from a revenue standpoint, from having plain land there, or even a landfill, it's probably not I would say it's probably not a significant revenue generator, but they're gonna have buildings and infrastructure down there. So they're gonna get taxed on that.
Okay.
And so remember, they're moving all of their stuff off of the former ash ponds. And at some point, I think, and if I remember correctly, part of their special use permit and the proffers, it talks about that with that, it gives allowable uses they can do. One, let me say one thing, the landfill, it cannot be a garbage dump. No one can bring their trash there. It is specifically for this purpose, only from the Dominion site. That's it. Nothing else can be brought in there. But again, you know, maybe at a future point, after they get all the remediation done on the ash ponds, maybe there is an alternate revenue source from the county from later on. Maybe they want to do I don't know, maybe they want to do solar down there, maybe they want to do some other type of new energy plant that comes on board, we're just not sure, but. Again, they can do the landfill on their property, they can do utilities and things like that, but that's extended, it basically kind of what is in their framework already.
Okay. Any other questions? Lois, you got any questions from online?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Thank you.
Well done, thanks. Thanks, Eric. Okay,
Okay,
take it back to Jennifer.
look, I'm getting a little better. Alright, so summary of economic activity for month of February. 10 existing businesses visits conducted, partner agencies, networks, conferences attended 18, other activities 29, that's all the follow-ups that don't really fall in a bucket. Prospects, real estate inquiries, we're back up at 2. We had kind of fallen down a little bit. And commercial kitchen inquiries, 1. No small business development center referrals this month, but they'll pick up. We did have some visits at the Small Business Development Center. So, to kind of go with the theme of recent rezonings and special use permits, SB Cox was heard after our last EDA meeting. They received a special use permit for their materials recovery facility for construction demolition debris. It's about 17, give or take, 17 acres that they're going to be using of the Amber Hill site. And then the public hearing for the Vaughn Zion property number 1, so that's the one on the west side, is scheduled for the public hearing this Wednesday. I do anticipate it probably potentially being deferred because of some environmental studies that we need to get that in. So that will be a A1 to I1 use. As I reported last month, the 40 acres on the eastern side was approved by the Board of Supervisors back in January. And SBDC, as I mentioned, we're continuing the Small Business Development Center hours at the Chamber of Commerce building. The next one is March 23rd from 12 to 4:30. Again, we're starting to see a new uptick in people taking advantage of this opportunity. In addition to that, we are participating, we as in the county has signed up to participate, and we have been also promoting it far and wide for the Futures Night. We've got several businesses signed up. You may have seen the ads in the Urbana Review. We're still looking for businesses. I got one today. You can contact Lori Huffman from to register, or if you have any additional questions. I thought I had one more slide. I must have took it off. That's it, I guess.
Lois, you want to go over the EdTech report? Anything you want to call out? Lois? Okay. Hopefully she'll come back if she has anything else to add.
Lois, you're on mute.
I thought it was off. I must have hit it twice. Okay. Jennifer, as I said, is a major contributor to EdTech. So Jennifer had organized EdTech members into 3 projects. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay, Palmyra Love Sign will be discussed at the next meeting. Fork Union Business Map Committee will meet by Zoom on February the 20th at 10. The Courthouse Restoration Committee has implemented phase 1, which is health and safety. Money, $308,000 for the second phase is waiting on the results of reconciliation of the bills from the State House of Representatives and the Senate. Jennifer reported that in January, Urbana County was awarded $60,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act Tourism Recovery Program. These funds will be used to create a full branding and marketing campaign focused on tourism outreach efforts on visitors looking for a relaxing day trip featuring agribusiness, art, history, outdoor recreation, and rural scenes. She is currently, Jennifer, again, working through the procurement process to acquire a marketing agency.
And you've been selected as secretary again?
Yes,
Okay.
Congratulations.
Nina Monroe, Kathy Turo, and myself were elected chair, vice president, and secretary respectively.
Okay,
Catherine Kilpatrick mentioned Virginia 250 year anniversary. So I thought it was something that maybe it was directly related to the counties and such, but it was more of a general I went to it. And it was more of a general advertisement for the anniversary. So it exists. We could maybe participate beyond my grade, salary grade.
what is it about? What are they doing?
Virginia 250-year anniversary celebration.
Okay,
And it's https://Virginia250.org.
okay. Anything else, Lois?
Nope, that's it.
How are you feeling?
I am trying my very best to get rid of this, and I am having a hard time.
I understand. Just don't know.
The death of my son-in-law kind of threw every time we wanted to do something. You know, we had COVID and we went up there and we didn't heal. And then when we were up there, I got this and I couldn't sleep or heal or anything. And so now I'm stuck with this and I'm doing my best to get rid of it. And I'm still participating here. So I hope you don't mind that we're doing it this way.
Nope. That's why we passed the rule.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have anything to report on the chair, other than just a reminder. When we are on a board, committee, or commission, we still have all the privileges of citizens, but we cannot represent ourselves as being a part of that board, committee, or commission, right? We just have to separate our appointed position from our personal position and make it very clear that if whatever we're doing is us as individuals, not us as a member of a board, committee, or commission. So just be aware of that, be careful in whatever we're doing out in the public. I will, looking around the room, I don't see anybody here for public comments.
We do have one.
Oh, that's right. Would you like to make public comments, ma'am?
Well, it's more of a farewell than a comment. I just want to say I've enjoyed being on the EDA. I've enjoyed working with you guys. But I've now moved on to bigger and better things. Being on the planning commission for the Columbia District.
Yeah, now instead of a 4-page read ahead document, you have
Yeah.
a 400
100
page.
page. I tried to stay on both, but I was told I couldn't, so I just wanted to come for this last meeting, say thank you and tell them to see me around. So,
Pam, can you state your name and address for the record?
oh yes, my name is Loretta Johnson Morgan, 18 Lake Road, Troy, Virginia. No, I was supposed to do that.
Thank you for your work.
No, thank you guys. We're doing good things here,
It
so
has been a pleasure working with you.
hopefully I'll come
Again.
back one day. I know.
Do we, before we move on, do we need to sign this?
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up, when we said we had no unfinished business. I have two items. This is one of them. This is your, email compliance for the, county emails that you were issued. You'll sign one on the planning commission side, so I've actually kept yours. And then if you could just hand this back to me. In addition to that, what's not on here is something that we had mentioned in the email that our attorney, Jim Bowling, has made the opinion that we need to update our bylaws in order to include a consent agenda. He also recommends putting it in between new business and unfinished business. Or we can also put it at the top where approval of minutes is. He also suggests, what's interesting is when we looked at the
So
bylaws again.
hang back up. Tell me what you just said again.
Okay,
To amend the bylaws to put it after the approval of the minutes or between unfinished and new business?
yes, so there's two ways that he's suggesting. I'm actually going to read from his.
Okay,
The first suggestion would be to put it. he's referencing number 8, but that's correlating with the actual bylaws. To right here at unfinished business.
Okay.
What's interesting is he also says, the way our bylaws are written, it says the reading and approval of minutes. So if we want to change that, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do it as a full-on consent, approval of minutes and a consent agenda. Or you can just do it as approval of minutes as 8A and consent agenda as 8B. So he's saying break it out because minutes are important. So I did, when in doubt, you refer to your other body. And so I looked at the Board of Supervisor and the way that they do them, and they are all lumped up in consent agenda. So originally, as I proposed this, when I drafted the first, I put it in replace of minutes. So we could do it Jim's way and put it down here below. But I say kick off the meeting, most important, and do consent agenda at the top.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's what I'd like to propose.
so in order to do that.
We have to give a week's notice.
Yes, so if we do it now, I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to post the next agenda. We'll post it and we're hitting all of our compliance deadlines. One other thing that came up in the bylaws when we actually read it. You see mistakes, right? Public comments is not officially in our bylaws. Well, we got time, we got opportunity to fix it. So what I would suggest, and I can send it out to you when we do it, is that section is what we're gonna amend, and we'll just add that to the amendment. So
I
we'll
mean,
do
we don't have to
consent
do public comments.
agenda. No, you technically, right now, by our bylaws, we do not have public comment time.
Okay.
Now, if we're gonna do public comments, we probably do want to put a section that says state your name and address. You have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the board decides. I see a motion for 3 minutes. That is the standard language that we did it over in Albemarle, when we enacted that there. So it's really up to you. I can provide some suggested language and suggested changes to everybody ahead of the meeting, so that we have all of that.
So does anybody have any real objections for replacing in our bylaws, replacing approval of the minutes with approval of consent agenda and then listing what's in the consent agenda? That way when she gives it to us, we can just blow right through it.
I just have a question, I don't have
Sure.
an objection. So the county report we're still gonna go through that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that's not gonna be a part of this.
No.
Okay.
So can we,
Identify what's in the
Yes.
consent agenda.
Can we
Yeah.
do that
The treasurer's
officially?
report,
okay,
the minutes,
okay,
ed tech,
okay,
and then we can have whoever's doing the ed tech report can call out whatever they want to from the meeting
Okay.
above and beyond what's in the minutes.
okay.
And anything else?
Well, just keep in mind that even though we're gonna do consent agenda, we can always pull any item out. So
Okay.
we say, approval of the consent agenda minus the EDAC report. We always have the ability to pull those out if we would like to discuss those as a separate item, and then everything else is gonna get approved like that.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, it just gives us back 7 or 8 minutes, right? That we can do stuff like this.
Okay, so then I'll drop something.
Okay, and then second thing is, did anybody have any objections to having a 3-minute public comments built into the bylaws?
Okay,
We thought it was there already.
so I might just phone a friend.
The bylaws have been cobbled together, so they're kind of clunky.
It's the one thing we didn't pick up on when we did this, but it's probably better to have the policy than.
Yeah.
and the 3 minutes is folks come prepared, and they're not just meandering through thought, so the idea is not to stifle a person's ability to speak, but to have them come prepared with something that is well managed and it's not just meandering.
Yeah, we recently had a public comment where the person was not prepared.
Right.
And they meandered.
And it does allow for the chair and the board to, extend that
You
3
can always
minutes.
extend,
if
you
so
get the
needed.
more time, if there's nobody else speaking, you can always give them, but again, it's a permission based,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Josh,
Yes, ma'am.
Josh, go back to his thoughts on the consent agreement.
Okay,
What did you mean again, please?
What did I mean?
Yes.
So on the consent agenda, if there's an item that you would specifically like to get pulled out of the consent agenda, so an example, the minutes. You know, if somebody would like to discuss the minutes, we can, when, as you're approving the consent agenda, you actually pull that out and say, I would like to discuss this. And then we would have that as a regular agenda item. And we can always do that with any item on the consent agenda. So you're not restricted to saying, I have to approve it or nothing. Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah, so what, the way it would work in practicality, Lois, is I would call for a motion to approve the consent agenda and get a second, and then when I open it for discussion, if somebody wants to pull out one of the reports for further discussion, they would say, I would like to pull out, I would like to remove the minutes from the consent agenda. And then we would vote on the minutes separately.
may I ask, when I send it out, I usually have, like last time we had a month. Before that, we have 3 weeks and some odd days.
Mhm.
Any changes that people want, I always say, please contact me. And
Lois, that was not picking on your minutes in any way, shape, or form. It was just a reference. So next time when I give a reference, I will not discuss your.
Use the treasurer's report.
Right, I can use a treasurer report as an example. So Lois, in no way, you're right, minutes are beautiful. That was not a reflection of your minutes. I was just using an example of something that we could pull out for discussion. Does that make
Right.
sense?
What it means, Lois, is that we have an obligation to read the minutes, the treasurer's report, and anything else on the consent agenda before the meeting. Because once we approve the consent agenda, we've approved everything that's in that consent agenda. Does that make sense? All it's going to
But
do.
considering that I have been on school boards for decades, I totally understand.
Uh-huh.
I was just trying to make clear what Josh was saying to me, because there was some question last time this was brought up by Josh.
Yeah, again, there was no reflection of your beautiful minutes. You do a great job on it. And so, so it was just an example of something that we could pull out.
Could you not, if during that week's time that you have the minutes and it's not something horrible in the minutes, could you not contact me and I will correct?
Yeah, that's a process thing that we still have to get right. So, I mean, we can go ahead and address it. So when the consent agenda comes out, as Valerie said, it's our job to read it. And if we notice something in there that doesn't look right, it's our job to raise the issue so that we don't have to spend our time at the meeting going over it. And then the correction can be made and it can get sent back out again with corrections.
So I shouldn't bother to send it out 3 weeks in advance because you're basically going to read it at the meeting?
Actually, we have a duty to upload the draft copy of the minutes. I think it's 3 days, 3 to 5 days after a meeting. So yes, we still need those.
3 to 5 days after the meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
so
so
if you
it would
look,
be the 18th, business days, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if we meet on Monday by the following Monday. right.
Okay,
Could I respectfully ask that people do not bring up nonsense stuff and contact me prior to the meeting? So
Sure.
it doesn't have to be brought up and pulled out of the minutes for after the consent?
Sure. And we just all of us, all 6 of us now, need to be better at doing that.
we do have closed session.
I know.
Okay,
We got 12 minutes.
we're good.
Okay. All right, so that was our unfinished business. Do we have any new business other than what we just talked about? It was kind of together.
Yeah, it was, that's why I waited.
Okay,
I have an update on your business.
sure.
For the Realtors Advisory Committee, they can join us the next meeting. They have not confirmed yet whether it be virtually or in person.
Okay. Great. And you're coordinating that directly with Jennifer? All right, awesome. And we would put them up right after, before reports, right?
Yes, yes.
And do we need to put that in the?
I don't know, we
bylaws
might
too?
as well just do it. We'll put
Special
presentations.
visitors or presentations,
Yeah.
there you go.
Mhm.
I don't do good with bylaws.
Yeah, I can't believe I missed it.
All right, so we have to go into closed session. We need somebody to make a motion to go into closed session.
I move that this meeting reconvene a closed meeting for the purposes of 1 pursuant to the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711. Paren A, paren 3, the discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition or publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the authority, specifically including property located at Fort Union Business Park. And number two, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, paren 5, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industries' interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, specifically concerning project storage.
Jennifer, could you send that to me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
It's in your packet, I think.
I'm home. I don't have a packet.
I would entertain this. We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Valerie, second by Josh. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Lois?
Yes.
There you go. Okay, whereas the Economic Development Authority of Savannah County, Virginia has convened a closed meeting on the above date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Economic Development Authority of Savannah County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Economic Development Authority of Savannah County, Virginia in the closed meeting. And we have a
We need a vote.
Yeah.
Right. Valerie, aye.
Aye.
Lois,
Yeah,
Brittany,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
chair votes aye. 5-0 and sign. There you go, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Second.
There was no second. It was just a reading of the
Okay.
resolution.
okay.
Anything else? We'll go to the order. We'll start with you, Lois,
No, I'm good, thank you.
Brittany,
Good.
Valerie,
I'm good.
Josh,
Do we just sign this side?
both sides.
Yes.
Let's say,
Oh, both sides?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's it.
and you've recorded the vote and signed on.
Yeah, and she's got it. So we're legal,
We're good.
or at least it's in her hands.
Jennifer, if you want me to include that in the minutes, please send me the copy with the signatures on it.
Yes, ma'am. I will send it to you first thing in the morning.
Okay, I would
Jennifer,
entertain a
you're
motion.
wonderful, thank you.
Josh moves to adjourn,
Second.
second by Valerie. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Oh, I
Aye.
want to keep meeting.
You want to keep meeting? Okay, you can meet. You can stay here.
Wondered, what would you do? if
You can
nobody
stay
wanted
here
to?
for the NTAC meeting and represent Lois.
No, I've got more. I've got
All
another.
right, we are
meeting.
adjourned. It's 6:02. Good job, folks.
What are you signing? This thing, the confidentiality agreement.